Hello, this is W7LPN. I have a magnetic loop project here that's turned out fairly well, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'll show you the different steps I've gone through and improvements I've made along the way. There you go. So the first thing I did is when I bought this original stepper motor, it was a 0.5 amp and 1.9 degrees per step, which was pretty fine, and I thought that would be pretty good, but it wouldn't finally adjust enough, and it would hesitate, and then it would jump past my high Q tuning point on the mag loop. So I went with a 0.9 amp instead of a 0.49 amp and a 0.9 degrees per step, which makes it twice as dense, and it tunes the 13 kilovolt 41 to 350 PF Jennings air variable capacitor much finer. Now this is going to throw some people that know a little bit about mag loops, and I don't know why, but see how my loop is up off the bottom that far, because every time I got it down next to the loop itself, the SWR went very high. I even tried squishing the loop down almost flat like a folded dipole, and that didn't help. And only when I started creeping it up gently, the SWR went 1.1 or 1:1. So I'm pretty happy with that. I've got to do some fine tuning, find little tweaks here and there, like straighten that capacitor out a little bit more and put some blocks of UHMW plastic in there to hold them rigid and hold it in place, and so my shaft won't be crooked. Now my shaft has these flex couplers on here, so it doesn't really hurt much to be slightly off center. Doesn't seem to hurt it at all. And I've just got the loop suspended with some parachute cord. All this seems to work pretty good. I've got signal reports from a guy in Michigan, WB8DDV. He was on 1,000 watts, and he was S9 here at my house, and he had his beam pointed this direction, and I was on this 14256, somewhere around there, I think, and he was giving me an S7 report. So anyway, it's pretty simple. These are the military camouflage suspension fiberglass poles that come in 4-foot sections. When I had 3 4-foots, that was too high off the ground, so I cut the bottom one in half. So I got 2 4-foot plus a half, so 10 feet to the top. And the bottom is a little over the 1 meter off the bottom, almost 2 meters off the bottom. So, but it works great right there. And that tree doesn't seem to hurt anything going east and west. So I'm not one of these guys that has a pretty ham shack, and I'm not very well organized. My shack is a mess, but anyway, here's the driver, and here's the controller. And I have this little controller here that I'm trying to figure out if I can get reverse on it. If not, I'm going to have to figure out how to put a reverse button on it. But I think I can do that. It'll have a digital readout and tell me how many steps from the bottom to my favorite tuning frequencies on 20 meters. So just my FT991A and double swing double. It's a MFJ 891, and here's my little Zastone sideband, or crossband repeater, and my little VNA here. Couldn't live without that. Okay guys, here's the VNA, and just to give you a little example here, creeps across pretty slow there across the screen, and I can hit reverse when I get to the other end and creep it back the other direction. And this really does work slow enough that I can, like, if I just push the button gently, if I can push it far enough to get a little, there we go. See, I can just bump it back and forth. Yeah, just bump it back and forth gently. And I can zero it in that way pretty good. Thanks, guys. Two different points to clarify. The first is I've never used more than the barefoot 100 watts out of the 991A. So when I was talking to the guy on kilowatt, I maybe had 92 or 86 watts actually forward reflected. So that's one point. The other one is on those fiberglass masts. Reception didn't change much, whether it was a little higher or a little lower, but transmission did, and SWR ease of adjustment. When it was between 1 and 2 height, diameter of the loop height, it was much easier to tune. The SWR was much lower. So the ground has something to do with the magnetic lube and lobe formation and how simple that will form. Like I said, doesn't seem to affect reception at all, but it was key in transmitting. Thank you.